All right, so in order to simplify square roots, we need to know some key vocabulary. The first word is square. The square of a number is that number multiplied by itself. So yesterday we talked a lot about the perfect squares. So 4 squared is the same as 4 times 4, which is 16. The opposite or inverse operation of a square is to take a square root. A square root is the number squared to get that number. So square root of 16 is 4. Because 16 is 4 times 4. Perfect squares are numbers whose square roots are integers. Perfect squares are numbers whose square roots are integers. There are 3 steps to simplifying a square root. The first step is to factor. The first step is to factor. Make sure you fill in those blank lines. Factor the number under the square root sign. You're factoring the number under the square root sign. Then you look for any factors that are perfect squares. You are looking for perfect squares. And then you're going to pull those out as the square root of the perfect square. You're going to pull them out as the square root of the perfect square. So you pull them out of the square root of the Okay, so example 1, the square root of 20. So two numbers that multiply to give you 20 are 5 and 4. So you take the number, you break it down. Step 2 is to look at those factors. So the factors are 5 and 4. And you're going to look for a factor that is a perfect square. So in this case, 4 is a perfect square. So we rewrite the square root of 4 as the number 2. So the square root of 4 is 2. The square root of 5 is not a perfect square. 5 is prime, so it doesn't break down into smaller factors. So this remains 2 square roots of 5. Another way you can simplify is to make a factor tree. Do you guys may remember making factor trees? So you would take the number 20 and you would break it down maybe into 5 and 4 again. Or you could have maybe said that 20 was 2 and 10. If you picked 2 and 10, none of those were perfect squares. So then you would say, oh, but 10 is 2 and 5. So for a factor tree, you are trying to rewrite the number as the factors of all its primes. So a factor tree is making a tree of primes. A factor tree is a tree of primes. And then what you do to simplify a square root with a factor tree is find your duplicates. So I have 2 square roots of 2. So if you have 2 of one number, it becomes that number without the square root. So every time you have 2, it becomes a single of that number. Anything left behind, like square root of 5, stays. So you can see how you found the square root of 20 using a factor tree or using the idea of the perfect squares that we talked about yesterday. We're going to do the next few examples doing both ways, and then you can pick the way you like. So make sure if you did not already do so, you copy down both ways right now. Make sure you copy down both ways. example number 2, square root of 27. So let's try this one using the factor tree method first. What two numbers multiply to give you 27? Luke? Perfect. So 3 is what we call a prime number. Zoe, what two numbers multiply to 9? Yeah. So the prime factors of 27 are 3 times 3 times 3. Every time you have 2 of them, it comes out in front of the square root as a single because you have 2. So I have 2, so it comes out as 1. That leaves 1 behind. The square root of 27 is 3 square roots of 3. If you didn't do a factor tree and you just multiplied to get 27, you would have had 3 square roots of 9. What do you know about the number 9? 9 is what type of number? Yep, Logan. It's a perfect square, exactly. And its square root is 3. So this could have become the square root of 9, which is 3 square roots of 3. Okay, so oftentimes these are multiple choice questions. They give you something like the number 108, and then they give you those choices down below. So the square root of 108 could be broken down into what two numbers? What two numbers do you know that multiply to 108? Anybody? And again, don't try to look at your answer choices, just any two numbers that multiply to 108. What'd you get, Zoe? All right, so take 108. Pick a number to divide it by, Nevaeh. Pick any number. What'd she say? What'd you say? I didn't hear you. That doesn't help me. What? Any number. All right, Luke, what'd you think? There you go. That's exactly what Mr. Mannion was getting at, guys. 108's even. Any even number divides by 2. So you could take this number and divide it by 2. So that became 2 times 54. Or if you make it the factor tree, because I know some of us like the factor tree look. Two is prime. So Logan, what two numbers multiply to 54? Sure. Okay, somebody else tell me what two numbers multiply to 54? Pick an easy one. It's even. It divides by 2. And 2 is prime. So we love that. So 2 times 27. We already did 27, so this should be easy. What two numbers multiply to 27? 3 and 9. Nine's not prime. What two numbers multiply to 9? Zoe? 3 and 3. So there's my factor tree. Circle all the duplicates. So I have 2 2s and 2 3s and then a single 3 left behind. So that means this becomes 2, because you take 2 outside, make it 1, times 3, and then everything that's left behind. 2 times 3 is? So you got 6 square roots of 3, which was option B. So again, square roots are all those numbers worked out. We are looking for doubles. We are always looking for doubles. So we're going to stop here, your homework. So you're going to skip this notes page. And then your homework is the page that follows that says simplifying square roots. You are doing simplifying square roots.